In the crowded streets of Manila, where jeepneys honked and children played barefoot in puddles, two young souls found their escape through music. Miko, a 13-year-old boy with a weathered guitar, and Althea, his 11-year-old sister with a soft angelic voice, performed every afternoon at the corner of a busy market. They sang for coins, their harmonies rising above the chaos, echoing through alleys lined with vendors and flashing neon lights. People often stopped to listen, some leaving a few pesos, others simply smiling through tears. They were known as the Miracle Kids, though to them, it was just survival. Their voices were their only possession, their only connection to the parents they lost during a typhoon 3 years ago. Every song they sang was a prayer for strength, every note a memory of home. One humid evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, Miko strummed his old guitar while Althea sang, "You Raise Me Up." Her voice trembled at first but grew steadier with every line. A foreign tourist walking by stopped, mesmerized, and recorded their performance. He uploaded it to social media with the caption, "Two street kids with voices that heal." Overnight, the video spread across the world. Within days, millions had watched it, leaving comments filled with awe and tears. Celebrities reposted it, calling their voices pure emotion. For Miko and Althea, life continued the same for a while. They didn't know they were becoming famous. It wasn't until a local radio host came to find them that everything changed. He showed them the video, smiling widely. "Kids, you're all over the internet," he said. They couldn't believe it. Their faces were on screens in America, Europe, everywhere. A few weeks later, a letter arrived from the United States, official and golden. It was an invitation to audition for America's Got Talent 2025. Miko held the letter with shaking hands, while Althea cried softly beside him. It was a dream beyond anything they had imagined. But the fear of flying, the cost of travel, and the uncertainty of the future weighed heavy. Still, something inside them whispered that this was their chance, a miracle meant for them. Donations poured in after the story hit Philippine television. Strangers from around the world offered help, paying for their passports, tickets, and clothes. For the first time, they felt seen, loved, and believed in. The journey to America began with tearful goodbyes. The streets that had once been their stage were now filled with neighbors waving and cheering. Miko and Althea carried only a small bag and their guitar. The airplane ride felt like a dream. They pressed their faces against the window, staring at the clouds, whispering prayers. Althea clutched a small pendant that once belonged to their mother, promising she'd sing her heart out for her. When they landed in Los Angeles, everything felt unreal. The wide highways, the bright lights, the unfamiliar language. They were welcomed by a Filipino-American volunteer who hosted them and helped them prepare for their big day. The night before the audition, they sat on the edge of their hotel bed, practicing quietly. Miko tuned the guitar while Althea rehearsed the lyrics, her small voice trembling with emotion. "What if they don't like us?" she whispered. Miko smiled gently. "Then we'll sing for Mom and Dad. That's enough." On the day of the audition, they arrived at the AGT studio, overwhelmed by the size of the stage and the sea of cameras. The judges' table looked enormous, with Simon Cowell, Sofia Vergara, Heidi Klum, and Howie Mandel sitting behind it. When their names were called, they stepped forward nervously, holding hands. Simon leaned forward, curious. "What are your names?" he asked. "We're Miko and Althea, from the Philippines," the boy replied softly. The crowd cheered, sensing something special. The lights dimmed, the first chord echoed, and as they began to sing, a deep silence filled the room. Every word, every note, carried their pain, their hope, and their love. The world was about to witness something unforgettable. The music began softly, a single guitar string trembling in the silence. Miko's fingers moved gently over the chords while Althea took a deep breath, her eyes closing as she let the first words of, "You Raise Me Up," escape her lips. The audience leaned forward, caught in the purity of her tone. There was something deeper in their voices, something raw, something that spoke of hunger, loss, and dreams that refused to die. Miko's harmonies blended with hers like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Even the cameramen forgot to move, they were frozen by the sound. By the time they reached the chorus, the entire theater was silent except for the two small voices that seemed to touch heaven. Simon Cowell's usual stern expression melted into something few had ever seen, his eyes glistened. Sofia Vergara covered her mouth, tears already falling, and Heidi whispered softly, "Oh my God." When the final note faded, there was stillness. Then, all at once, the crowd erupted in cheers, standing and clapping, shouting their names. Althea looked shocked, her little hands trembling. Miko wiped his eyes and smiled through his tears. Simon stood, his voice trembling as he said, "I've seen many performances on this stage, but this is something divine." He reached forward, looked at them with a soft smile, and pressed the golden buzzer. In that instant, gold confetti poured down like rain. Miko and Althea hugged each other, crying uncontrollably as the audience roared louder. Simon walked on stage, kneeling beside them. "You've just made the world remember what real talent sounds like," he whispered. The moment went viral instantly. Clips flooded the internet, reaction videos, news segments, people calling them the angels from Manila. They had become overnight sensations. Across the globe, millions cried watching their performance. For Miko and Althea, life was no longer the same. They were no longer invisible street kids, they were now symbols of hope, proof that even pain could turn into something beautiful. The semifinals arrived faster than they expected. They had been staying in Los Angeles, training every day, trying to adjust to their new world. Fame was exciting, but it came with pressure. Cameras followed them everywhere, interviews asked about their past, and the expectations grew heavier. During rehearsals, Althea's voice began to crack. The exhaustion of travel, emotion, and stress was catching up. She cried backstage, whispering that she wasn't good enough. Miko sat beside her, his arm around her shoulder. "Do you remember when we used to sing just for the people at the market?" he said gently. "We didn't sing to impress them. We sang because it was all we had. Let's do that again." His words steadied her heart. On the night of the semifinals, the stage was darker, quieter. The screen behind them showed waves crashing and images of the typhoon that had changed their lives. They chose to sing, "Rise Up," a song that told their story without words. When they began, their voices carried the pain of every child who had lost a home. Althea's voice was fragile but fierce, Miko's harmonies strong and steady, wrapping around hers like a shield. The crowd swayed, tears flowing freely. When the final line ended, the theater was in tears once again. Heidi stood up first, clapping with both hands high. "You make us believe in hope again," she said. Sophia added, "You are not just performers, you are miracles." Even Simon took a long pause before speaking. "What you just did," he said quietly, "will live in people's hearts for years." Backstage, Miko and Althea hugged, crying softly. They didn't know yet if they had advanced to the finals, but in their hearts, they already felt victorious. They had sung for their parents, for every broken child back home, and for themselves. When the results came later that night, the host called their names as the audience erupted in joy. They were going to the finals of America's Got Talent 2025. Miko looked up at the ceiling, whispering, "We did it, Mom." Althea smiled through tears, clutching her pendant as confetti fell once again. Their journey from the streets of Manila to the world's biggest stage was far from over, it was only just beginning. The night of the grand finale arrived, and the energy inside the theater was electric. The entire world had been following Miko and Althea's journey, and social media buzzed with excitement. Everyone was waiting to see what the little Filipino survivors would do next. Backstage, Miko tuned his guitar in silence while Althea closed her eyes, whispering a prayer. They both knew this night wasn't just about winning, it was about proving that dreams born from pain could still shine. Their mentor had encouraged them to perform an original song called Home Again, written by Miko about the feeling of finding hope after loss. It was their story in melody, every lyric a memory of the streets they once called home. When their names were announced, the lights dimmed, and the audience roared as they walked barefoot onto the stage. The stage transformed into a vision of Manila at sunset, with digital projections showing narrow alleys, flickering streetlights, and the soft glow of candles. Miko began strumming his guitar, the sound gentle but strong, while Althea sang the first verse in a trembling voice that soon grew clear and powerful. "We had nothing but our voices, and somehow that was enough," the lyrics said. The audience listened in awe, their faces reflecting the glow of the stage lights. As the song built to its chorus, Miko joined in, their harmonies blending perfectly, creating a sound so pure that it silenced the room. The performance felt like a prayer wrapped in melody, a story of love, survival, and gratitude. By the final chorus, the screen behind them showed their old viral video playing in slow motion, the two kids singing on the street corner back home. Now, those same kids were standing on the biggest stage in the world. The music faded, leaving the sound of their hearts echoing in the silence. For a moment, nobody moved. Then, as if the entire theater exhaled at once, the crowd stood, clapping and cheering louder than ever before. Simon Cowell stood slowly, visibly moved. His voice broke slightly as he said, "You remind us all what this show is about. Not fame, not money, but heart. You two are the reason this stage exists." Sophia was wiping tears, Heidi blew them a kiss, and Howie said, "You've touched the world in a way few ever can." The audience began chanting their names, and even the cameras couldn't capture the full emotion in the room. When the host called them back on stage for the results, Miko held Althea's hand tightly. The finalists stood side by side, all waiting for the winner's name to be announced. The tension was unbearable. The host smiled and said, "America has voted." The pause stretched, the crowd fell silent, and the winner of America's Got Talent 2025 is Miko and Althea. The theater exploded in cheers. Confetti rained down again, this time silver and gold, swirling around them as they cried and hugged. Simon ran to the stage, wrapping both of them in a warm embrace. "You deserve this more than anyone," he said. Althea whispered, "We just wanted to sing for our parents." Simon replied softly, "You did, and for the whole world too." In the days that followed, their story became a global phenomenon. News channels called them the voices of hope. They performed on talk shows, met famous artists, and received standing ovations wherever they went. But despite all the fame, they stayed humble. The finale episode ended with their return to the Philippines, stepping out of the airport to crowds of cheering fans. Reporters surrounded them, but Miko and Althea's first stop was the small community where they once lived. With their prize money, they rebuilt damaged homes and opened a small music school for poor children. In one touching scene, they stood in front of dozens of kids holding microphones for the first time. Althea told them, "You don't need a stage to sing, you just need heart." The final moment showed them performing, home again, under the stars in their rebuilt neighborhood, surrounded by children singing along. The camera slowly pulled back, showing Manila glowing in the night, while Miko's voice narrated, "We thought music saved us, but it was love that did." The screen faded to black with the words, "From the streets of Manila to the hearts of the world, Miko and Althea, AGT 2025 champions." It was a story that no one would forget, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope can still find its voice.